Hello and welcome to another episode of the Richard and Dr. Ed Show. Dr. Ed, how are you doing today?
Third time lucky. Hope
It's
better
a
than the last time and the time before that.
yes. This is our third attempt at this podcast. Maybe the health world doesn't want to know how to help fix shoulders.
Definitely doesn't want to know how to have a good Wi-Fi connection.
Yeah. So today we're going to go into a case study that you had
Yeah.
of. I'll do a quick overview of an MD that had shoulder pain.
Mhm.
Nothing has nothing helped his situation, and then he was recommended to you by another doctor, if I'm not
Mhm.
mistaken.
Yeah.
So let's kind of go through it. We'll kind of break down a little bit of the beauty of this is that it ties into the entire, shall we say, mindful movement. It ties into movement and training, and more importantly, emotional mapping and the behavioral cycles and the discomfort that sometimes you could be feeling are linked to past events and how you perceived those past events. So let's go into a little bit. So talk to me about the case study.
Mhm. Yeah. So this doctor is basically unable to work because whenever he's in the hospital, he gets nasty left shoulder pain, and it's kind of like in the front top of the bicep. Important fact, I guess, is that it's worse when he's in the hospital on the ward, faced with moral dilemmas, let's say, where he doesn't feel that he can say what he wants to say.
Mm-hmm.
Um, anyway, he had his last surgery in March and has since then been kind of trying to do standard rehab with physios, but it hasn't really got on top of the pain, which is why he
Okay.
was referred to me. So then, as we always try and do, in Moved Academy and what I learned from your assessment seminar back in 2019, we try and start with a good history. So in this case, he had had a traumatic dislocation of his left shoulder, landing on it when he was trampolining.
Okay.
And there's certain lesions that can happen with traumatic dislocations that mean the shoulder becomes unstable. So usually it needs surgery to make sure it's kind of back in the joint. And so he had that surgery, and then it was pretty good for a couple of years, I think. And then he had a boxing match, charity boxing match in medical school, and it popped out again, and he had to have it put back in again with surgery.
Oof.
So yeah, double trouble. But that's really, if you think about it, it's four traumas because you have the original injury, the surgery, the next injury, and then the following surgery,
Right.
and then the compounded inflammation with the standard physio model of strengthening the rotator cuff, which has its place in certain contexts. I haven't really found those contexts yet, but there's a requirement to get on top of that inflammation in the shoulder when it's been stressed so much by these mechanical events. And when we were driving to the gym, because I picked him up, I just happened to kind of go back to my own thinking of the patterns that we see in the body, and I asked if he'd had any issues with his right hip, and he said, "How did you know?" I was born with a congenital issue. The diagnosis as a child was delayed. Unfortunately, the doctors, they did a scan, but they forgot to tell his parents about the results of the scan, so they didn't find out until it was too late. So he had to have a hip replacement when he was quite young. Um,
Damn.
which was it was a whole ordeal, a lot of pain afterwards, having to be in bed on strong medications, opiates, and then kind of coming through that experience, he wanted to be a doctor. So
Okay.
he said the hip pain kind of just disappeared, and he asked me where it went. I said, well, maybe it's in the left shoulder now.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was the history. And the goal really is to get to a point where he can go back to working in the hospital, because at the moment he can't even earn money. So
That's crazy.
yeah,
And so the discomfort was that from like a 1 to 10, where how high was it on an average?
variable. When he saw me, it's kind of like a dull, maybe a 1 or 2. but I'm sure that's
Okay.
been kind of down regulated by the body over a long period of time. I mean, I'm guessing it gets up pretty high when he's actually working and having to use it, so to speak, in stressful environments.
Right. So after the eye test, oh sorry, did you end up doing an eye test, or did you guys just kind of go to work with Swami, or what was your plan thinking?
Yeah,
Planned.
so we did the eye test, which I didn't take a photo. Usually I take a photo, but Russ was there, so Russ filmed all of this. So we'll try and put
Oh,
that video
beautiful.
out. Yeah. So there was, you know, how you can see kind of the upper pec when somebody's holding
Mm-hmm.
over. There was nothing on the left. It was just like
Okay.
the shoulders kind of sunken. Lots of mid traps on both sides, and basically no teres major.
Okay.
And it started to cause discomfort when we were overhead for not very long. So I didn't want to push it too hard. And then yeah, we went into the Swami, and he's a fairly mindful type of guy, I would say. So he kind of got to grips with the Swami quite quickly. Was able to find a good few connections. Didn't necessarily worsen the pain, but he said he could feel it, which I always say to people, the Swami is great for kind of building awareness in the body, so you might start to feel the points of discomfort a bit more
Right.
until we got into the movement.
Beautiful. And what was the? How long do you spend in Swami?
I think 15, 20 minutes. Not too
Okay.
long. It was a busier gym than I was hoping. If it
Yeah.
was a bit quieter, we might have gone a bit longer. We went long enough for him to be able to understand it. And again, we talked through the talk chains and how to see the body from a different perspective than what you might see in the medical world, rather than a standard anatomical model looking at more of a functional anatomy with these structural muscles being important and being able to connect with them. And it was great to be able to explain it to another doctor, and they were able to understand it and make sense of it more quickly, I guess, because they have that background of anatomy and physiology there, which
Nice.
is helpful.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And what was kind of your inclination, to what, like your exercise choice, and what were you trying to do to lower his discomfort? I mean, obviously you were approaching it mainly towards the pure physical side, I take it, at this point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So I just wanted to create some kind of safety and blood flow to the shoulder and see what happened. So we went with a pec squeeze, and I just had him walking around the gym for quite a long time. I got two very light plates, like 1.25 kilo plates, and he just squeezed them together. Um, did that for a while. Again, didn't feel any shoulder pain, so we went for 2.5 kilo plates, and we just kept building up how many plates he could squeeze. I think
Awesome.
we got beyond 10 kilos, and then he really managed to connect to the pecs, and then he felt the teres major start to fire as well. And then I wanted to try something different, so I gave him a longer dumbbell, um, and it caused the discomfort to come back. I was kind of just trying to expose the shoulder to different stimuli that were similar but not too different, if that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah, yeah.
So the dumbbell was too much, so we went back to the plates, and I showed him that we could, if we triggered the shoulder with whatever movement, then we could always go back to the carries, and it would allow the shoulder to relax again, and it would feel better. So it was something that I like to teach in my assessments is even if people like to freak out when they start to feel the pain coming in, you just give
Right.
them the thing that you did just before that allows them to kind of get control and have a sense of, okay, I'm in control of, if I connect correctly, then
Right.
the pain
So
reduces.
regaining the safety.
Yes. So we did that for quite a long time, just to build up as much connection to the chest as I could,
Awesome.
or he could.
Or he could, yeah. We know you can build up a lot of tension. Um, so after the carries, what other exercises did you start to implement,
What did we do after the carries? We went into
or was that it?
sled pulls with a rope.
Okay, nice.
Yeah. And again, there was a whole kind of learning process where the kind of first round I didn't give him any cues, and he kind of freaked out a bit and said he felt his shoulder a bit, and then I explained the breathing again,
Mm-hmm.
and then the sled was kind of without weight, and I had to take all of the upright poles out to make it even lighter. And then we got back to that just by building up slowly, teaching him that, and if you connect to the right muscles, it will start to feel better. I gave him a few different constraints with the breathing, with trying to do a long exhale as he pulled the whole rope towards him, which worked when we added more weight. And again, there was kind of this paradox of when we added more weight, he felt better, he felt more connected. He wasn't so mindful of protecting the shoulder.
Nice,
And there
beautiful.
were one or two kind of bad reps that he caught himself, and he said he felt like a little pop, and then
Then we got better again.
then it got better again. So it was just a lot of exposure therapy to having not, like, he was, every time we did something new, he was super excited because he hadn't done any upper body work for 18 months. So it was a
Crazy.
whole lot of work for one session back, but feeling
So
really good.
they wanted to get rid of his discomfort by him not doing anything for the upper body. That makes sense. Just ignore it completely. It'll get better.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Um, so just Swami presses, like the holds, and
Mm-hmm.
then the rope pulls.
Yeah. And then every time he pulled the rope, I got him to run it back in just a normal kind of sled push with arms extended overhead.
Yeah.
And just to kind of build a bit more intensity, getting some more blood flow through the system and warm the hips up. And then I finished with um, the glute bridge song
Okay.
to show him, even though the right hip feels good, he could then learn how much of a difference there was on the left and right hips as well.
Cool.
And he got it, and he managed to push through. Kind of found some nice connections, and then finished the session feeling like he'd had a kind of a full body workout, lots of blood flow, feeling good. And we left it there. I didn't want to do too much else.
Yeah, it's perfect. Yeah, I mean, I think especially for a first session, I think with most sessions, you should really limit it to up to 4 exercises, especially if we're trying to diminish discomfort. It's not somebody you're seeing on a weekly or daily basis. So creating the independence of them understanding when they're moving correctly, when they're not moving correctly, um, building up the right neural output. Thumbs up. I give you a thumbs up. Trying to really force them to learn their interoceptive nature of when their bodies are moving correctly. Did he was he so he was able to walk away like he had a full body workout? Did the pain or the discomfort diminish at the end of the session?
It was more or less the same. No,
Okay,
it was more or less the same. I think it was a bit reduced at the end of the session, and then the next morning, it was he expected it to be much higher. It hadn't gone up. It was again a one, and then over the last couple of days, it's gone down even more.
awesome.
Just from playing with the squeezes and doing a bit of swami and a simple solutions, really.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't take much. And so the beauty of it is that right now it's this stage, the next 4 to 6 to 7 weeks will be about building safety, meaning that we're building blood flow, neural connection, um, some isometric squeezing. So the body actually starts to understand that the pec major, the teres major is there to help support the shoulder. And then after that, then we can start to change or add in a couple exercises where we can actually start to get some more concentric movement happening at the pec or teres major. And then, after that, then it's easy going. Is he able, how much longer does he have before he can go back to work, or how does that work for him?
He's off until September,
Oh, okay. So you have a
so he's
whole
some time. So I'm
2
going to
weeks.
try and see him again in a couple of weeks, which will be when we kind of see what we can add
I like
or
it.
change.
And what did you learn from the session?
I learned that even in cases where people have had multiple surgeries, we can still have a big impact. That was
Yeah,
an important thing for me. The other thing, like, you begin to get a sense of, you see the solution in the long term,
yeah,
but it's still going to take that person time
and
to
effort.
have those small wins. Maybe there's even something to be said for not having too many wins too quickly, because then you kind of get a bit too confident with your shoulder.
Right.
But yeah, it's taking things one step at a time and not doing anything too crazy. Just stick to the basics.
Yeah, I think it's so shitty, but that's the hardest thing to sell as a coach, right? Or personal trainer or MD. It's like you just need consistency and simplicity. And then from there, you can slowly overload the system. And people sometimes don't have that patience,
Yeah.
or the coaches don't have the confidence to provide 4 exercises for the next 6 weeks. Right? I have a client now that's like, well, what else do I do? And I was like, just keep doing this. He's like, yeah, no, but I feel better. I'm like, yeah, but it's going to take time. Stress yourself more. So go heavier, but you want to try and make sure that that overload doesn't exceed that 4% to where the body's just going to completely revert back to, what was it, like a mid trap, just dominating the entire shoulder to protect it? No
Yeah.
rear delt.
No, that none of the ET seemed to be there.
Okay.
So that will be the time to build up slowly in the future.
Yeah, I dig it.
Yeah, I mean, the keeping it simple is, I guess, it goes like being a chef analogy or a mechanic, or like you still need to keep practicing how you, I don't know, what they do, change tires or cut things or slice certain things, you know.
I don't know about that one, bro. I think that it's in the keeping it simple. It doesn't take a lot for change to happen, but you still need to put in the work, right? So I think that's the biggest thing, is that it's the simplicity isn't where the physiotherapist failed, is that there wasn't enough stress imposed on the shoulder. There was just more skill imposed on the shoulder, meaning that they were asking him to move to positions, not find the interoception and the tension of the bigger muscles, right? So they were trying to add too many steps to I think, like, if we're going to go with the chef analogy, now that you have me on the chef idea, a caprese salad, right? It's tomatoes, cheese, basil, olive oil, right? Some salt, a little bit of balsamic. So, like, 5 ingredients. It's the same shit everywhere you go. What changes is the quality of the products. So it's a good chef that knows how to pick the ripe tomatoes, or knows when to put this tomato versus that tomato, that will make it better. And I think that's the key for us as coaches, is we understand how much stress needs to be implemented on the client for them to start to get better. And we take a simple approach versus a skillful approach, or a over exaggerated approach where they're just wanting to add more, right? That would be the information. The objective says that if you have frozen shoulder, you do these exercises and it's going to give the results, until it does. So it's more about the simplicity. The simplicity comes in the exercise choice. The complexity is in understanding how much the client needs for that day. And I think,
Which I guess that's the integration. Like that's what Moved Academy is trying to bring to the fitness world, is there's an integration of how the human is feeling and
right.
the behavior of the human, and not they need to do 3 sets of 8 squats to
Right.
depth.
Yeah, let's talk about this whole mindful movement bullshit. I mean, it's a good term. It sounds nice. It sounds pretty. But if you're going to be using mindful movement and you're going to be selling mindful movement, then shouldn't it come from a scope of teaching interoception so the client can have proprioception? So getting to depth in the squat might not be the best thing for your client that day or that moment, or maybe in the next couple of weeks. When I think of mindful movement, it is encompassing the guiding principle that I made for Moved Academy, right? Which movement or training is physical, mental, and emotional. We get that through the proper stimulus and by making sure that we're auto regulating the nervous system through proper exposure or adequate exposure, um, which then allows us to create safety and confidence in the body to perform tasks, right? I think that encompasses mindful movement. And then if you were to bring in, your definition of being fit, what was the ABCD? You
Yeah,
don't
well,
remember.
I mean, I just do the ABC of health, and then fitness just becomes very. Fitness is all about the task that you're completing.
Right.
It doesn't necessarily define anything related to health.
Yeah. So if we're going to be going for mindful movement, be mindful of what you're teaching. But anywho, that's always that could be another podcast with the knowledge versus information and going back
Mm-hmm.
to being subjective versus objective and how much of each side of that spectrum you truly need based on what you're training for. But what's the kind of long-term plan for this case study? You're thinking September he'll be pretty low discomfort, no discomfort? Was there anything kind of set in place?
Yeah, well, the I think the difficulty is going to come when the stress comes back. When the stress is the job, is working in
Yeah,
the hospital. It will be managing that kind of transition phase.
right.
So I think, yeah, we've had some discussions. It'll maybe be starting back a couple of days a week and seeing how the body responds, and then the days off, having a system where you can kind of make sure the connections are being maintained,
I like
and then
it.
build up the stress from there.
Yeah. Well, and I think also, these exercises are so simple that it creates an easy protocol that if he starts to feel it as he's working, he can take a 5 minute break. I don't know how it works so much in the medical world, right? But you can take 5 minutes in the office or even 60 seconds just to, squeeze your hands together and get the pec to activate.
Yeah,
Maybe do some Swami breathing, X, Y, and Z, and you can create these protocols to kind of diminish the discomfort. And then I think the biggest goal would be for him in 3 months in September that he's being consistent with training so that he has his outlet to let go of all of the input and stress coming in from work.
yeah,
Because once he's back in that regular environment and the body knows how to best survive, or at least get him out of that environment, um, it'll probably want to kick back in.
yeah. It'll be good. I mean, he's engaged. He's interested in what I've told him so far. So I think it will lend itself well as a case study. As we discussed, I'll probably end up doing a podcast with him as well,
Awesome.
at some point, and then obviously the content with Russ, and we'll see how that pans out, and then we'll get more medical professionals understanding movement a bit better.
Right. I like it, bro. Any closing thoughts
I
on
did a
this?
good pyramid set
Yeah.
on Tuesday for
Yeah.
pyramid day. I did a bench press with
Oh, nice.
the ET press all the way up to the top
Mm-hmm.
for 5 reps, and then I did IT all the way down for 10 reps.
Interesting.
It
Nice.
was nice.
Beautiful.
I
I
recommend
chose
it.
poorly. I did wall balls, up by 3 reps. My legs are feeling a bit tired today, but that's life.
How high did you get to?
I failed on the 27th.
That's still
So it was
pretty
a
good.
36. Yeah, I think it ended up being like 270 wall balls. I goofed. It was so, but I made it. I don't know why I'm so stubborn. I made it more difficult. So I failed the 27s, but then I made it a rule that as I was coming back down, you're not allowed to quit. So if you quit, you can't count the set. So like on 24s, you had to complete 24s. If you don't complete 24s, like if you stopped at 23, you couldn't pick it up and just get 24. So I would have to start all the way back to one to complete 24 unbroken.
It's
Yeah.
good if you like high rocks and wall balls. That's a good way
Yeah.
to do it.
Right. I think that's kind of why I went to it because there was a bunch of high rocks people training, and I was like, let's go give it a try. Have fun with it. They're blowing up high rocks. Now they're making all their own equipment.
Yeah.
$1 billion idea. I like it. Bam. All right, guys. Well, I think we'll call it there. I have to go get blood taken, which I'm extremely
Oh,
stressed out about. My hands are sweaty, and I'm not happy about it. But shit has to happen. So I need to Swami breathe my way on the metro to get myself inside of this place and get a whole medical examination. That sounds very non-exciting for my day today. So talk about dealing with stress. Anywho, we have a bunch of emotions in our muscles workshops coming up through in September in the UK, Amsterdam, and in Europe in Regensburg, Germany. So right next to Munich, which means that you can go to Oktoberfest as well. Um, I have 3 rooms left for the Bali Movement Ayahuasca, where Ed and I will guide you guys through some epic experiences and show you the power of Swami and movement with the right intentions. And if you want to join us on a bi-weekly basis on these beautiful calls with Moved Academy and get over 300 hours of viewing material and educational material to make you a better coach or health professional, head on over to movedacademy.com and sign up for the mentoring program. Bam! Make sure to follow us. If you guys have questions, comments, or anything, leave it on the YouTube channel. You guys can leave it on at Rare Barracuda or at Dr. Ed Caddy on Instagram, Twitter, all of the platforms, just all of the platforms.
Yeah.
Most active on Instagram, but on all of the platforms. Beautiful, guys. Thank you very much and have a phenomenal day. Bam! It says stopping. I don't know if it actually stopped.